When I was a little girl, I used to go and play in a neighbour's house next door sometimes because she had lots of children, and I used to go play in her house, right? And I used to be there for hours, right? And likewise, they used to play in my house as well. So we used to go from house to house, swap playtime. And I remember on one of these visits there was a little girl. She was very, very tiny, and the focus of that particular playtime was the big dolly. We all gathered around a big dolly. I think in them days they might have had, I can't remember if it was a Barbie doll or a Cindy doll. It might have been a Cindy doll. And this dolly was a fascination because she was 6 foot. She was bigger than us, right? And she was the mother of the house bought this child this 6 foot dolly. I was thinking, how the hell is she going to play with this? It's bigger than all of us in here. I used to like marvel at this 6 foot dolly, and I remember very vividly this little girl walking past to come and have a look at the dolly, and she was smaller than me, and more smaller in body as well, in height, and I always remember her. Right now, as she walked past, the Mrs. M said something like, "You see that little one?" And I don't remember the rest of the conversation. What about that little one? Yeah. And I could have sworn she was talking to my mum. When I asked my mum who that little girl was, my mum said, "I have no knowledge of what you're talking about. I have no knowledge of no little girl like that." So I said, "Well, she must have been talking to you." My mum said, "Well, maybe she was talking to you when I wasn't there." Yeah. So that makes quite a lot of sense. And for years I've wondered who this little girl was, right? And there was no one to ask who she was. And one day I was going along the high road, and there was this somebody I went to school with. I hadn't seen her for a long time, and we got talking. My mum said, "Your face is so familiar," and the lady said, "Yes, yours too." And I said, there's something kind of like passed through my mind at the time, and I said, "Do you have any connections with Mrs. M?" And she said, "Oh, do you mean Mrs. M that used to live off a certain place in Tottenham?" I said, "Yes." And I said, "Has she got children?" I named the children, and she said, "Yes." So I said, You and I went to High Cross School together, right?" And she said, "Yes, I know that." So I said, did you ever used to visit Mrs. M?" And she know what she said to me? She said to me, "Yes." Now this girl and I went to school together, and I never knew that it was her, yeah? And then I looked down at her feet, and she had the same tiny little feet, the same tiny little walk, and that's the little girl that I remembered.